see. Come on. We're having technical difficulties. We're trying to get Nick Myers, a breakaway tackle, uh, on the channel with us today. There he is. So, all right, let's see. There you are. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yay! All right, we're live.
Awesome. Yes, we are live on the channel. I'm just bringing it up on my computer because what I also do too is I take off the comments on my phone so that way I don't have to be staring at it because they pop up too quickly for me to read them all and say we're having a conversation. So what I do is I go to my computer and I pull it up live there. That way all the comments can be there when we want to address them.
Okay.
So, all right.
Hang on 1 second. Stay there. I'm coming back.
Yeah.
Hey, come in here. I'm going to put you on in a minute. This guy, when we start talking about pomelo fishing, I want to include my Filipino friends.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. All right. So we got Jacked Up Leatherworks in the house. You saying what's up too?
Is it working yet?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're live. We got a few people on. Jacked Up Leatherworks is one of our channel sponsors. He does a lot of our leather work and stuff like that. But he's also from Corpus, so he knows who you are as well. So
He better.
yeah. Hey,
right, Jack.
I got to ask you, Nick, because you've been around the fishing community here. Shoot, you got what, 15 years on me at least?
Right, I started here in '94.
That's okay. Yeah, I nailed it. About 15 years.
Right.
So, with that being said, do you still run into that deal? Well, I didn't even know you were here.
Yes, all the time. And then when they do say that, they go, could you say that again? Because I don't understand you. Oh, thank you, Jack. Jack said he loves the beach reports.
Oh, yeah. A lot of my subscribers are your subscribers as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll be talking. Hey, did you see Nick's report? And it's always a topic of conversation that comes up when it involves beach talking and stuff like that. So right now we've got, I don't know why it's taking it. There's only 3 people. Come on, this ain't right.
That's me, you, and Jack.
Yeah. Me, you, and Jacob. Yep. So, no, but actually, this is going to be pretty cool. I don't know if you'll want to chime in after we get off or whatever, but I've got one of the guys that retired from the marine fisheries where they raise the redfish and they raise the trout and the flounder. Well, he retired from there. Well, he came into my shop and was talking fishing and stuff like that. And just, man, within a few minutes, like I was learning so much from him. I'm like, wow, we need to bring you on the channel. Like,
get him on.
There's so many things that we do as fishermen that we really don't know.
I tell you, I had a good interaction with them maybe 15, 20 years ago. I invented a stingray scaring machine, right? So what I did, I took a TENS machine. Do you know what a TENS machine is?
No.
TENS machine is one of them electrical things you put on yourself to stop pain, right? Yeah. So what I did is I ran down both legs 2 pads, right? And when you were in the water, that switched the machine on and it sent the electrical impulses out, right? So I had this built in San Antonio and we put it in a waterproof container. And as you walk in the water, so it sent out, the idea was that was going to scare the stingray off. So I went to that breeding place where they bred the redfish, and they had a big tank full of stingray, all right? So I put this device of mine on a stick, and I put it in the water with it switched on, and they all scarpered, all right? But the guy said that was more likely the shadow of the stick, whatever. So then I put it back in again with it off and left it there for like 20 minutes, and they all come round. Then I switched it on, and it scared them right out. And what they did, they would bend up like that, and they'd sense the electric through their lip section, like they would flex backwards, and then they'd buzz off. And I was going to go ahead and do it as a production product. Billy Sandifer wanted me to do it, but it was an expensive deal to get in. I never did go ahead and finish it off. But that's an interaction I had with them people. They were really helpful.
Wow, that's pretty nice. Imagine that to create a product and people invest into and not have to worry about getting bit by stingray.
Well, that stingray issue, I don't know if you saw that
Or
video.
not bit, but stung.
Right.
Stung.
That video I did with Ashley, where I don't know if you saw it, where she got hit.
I did not get to, but you were talking about it the last time, and I wanted to bring you on live before it happened, but we were having technical difficulties.
Right.
Smart, dumb phones.
We're there now.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, when I was talking about it, they went to your channel and watched it. So they were saying, man, that's crazy. You know, how that all transpired. And it was all because, just a little common courtesy kind of deal. And it didn't go. You know what I mean? So
I was on the radio this morning. They asked me to go on just to talk about that subject. And my thing was that I've noticed a change in the attitude of how the beach used to be. We had a relationship with the Rangers where we were a team. Like if we were down there, I've been down there many times and we've had to help each other out. I've been down there when there was an autistic kid who had stole his mum's truck and he parked in the high banks and he'd run out of fuel. And I happened to be there, and there was a Ranger. She took the Ranger, I took the truck and took it back in. That was the first time I encountered OnStar. I was driving along the beach. Out of nowhere came, who's driving this vehicle? Right? And I'd never heard. So I went, Nick the fisherman. So they then said, where's that boy, right? So I had to then go through, but we worked as teams then.
yes.
I mean, if there was something wrong, I would help them, they would help me. And you got to remember, in them days, there would be like one turtle herder down there by herself. So we were all looking after each other.
Yes.
But now, when I go to the beach, I almost feel like I'm going to a party I'm not invited to. That's the sort of, do you know what I mean?
And you know what's crazy? It's because that we live here, and to feel that way on our own beaches. And I mean, granted, we don't own them, but you're there so much. I mean, you feel like you have to protect.
The people own them. The people of America. That's their beaches. That's who that belongs to. And Yarborough Pass has been closed 90% of this last year that went by. I mean, it's still closed. And that used to be when the north winds come in and it was cold and terrible. That's where we would go back and fish, where we would camp. Where now, I mean, really, if they wanted to, there should be like, when you go back in Yarborough Pass, there should be a bird observation area down there where you can go back, sit and look at all the ducks and everything that's going on and encourage people to go back and see how beautiful this island is, including the bayside, as you know what I mean. Also, how everything interacts, across. And so I find it very sad that the only thing I feel that's happened is restrictions. Gone is the time. I remember when there used to be a gun range before you went on the beach off to the right there. You could go.
Yeah, I remember it.
They shut that down. Now, I know some of it has nothing to do with the park. You've got Brad Jones has got a lot of land they're developing, like where we used to go back to Nighthawk. And he's got every right to close us off from it. But if you look at it on the whole, it's restrictions against our fishing. Whether, you know what I mean? They've got a right to do it, maybe. Now, the park hasn't. They work for us, and they should encourage usage. They should encourage the sharing of knowledge. That should be what that park is about. Where someone goes there, they have a great experience. They know the rangers are there to guide, protect. I bet you could go and ask any one of them rangers what. Couple of them know what they're doing because I speak to a couple of them. They're really nice people. But you could ask 90% of them what time's high tide. They wouldn't have a clue. They wouldn't even know it moved
What's
in
high
or
tide?
out.
Nick, you nailed it on so many levels right there. It's a national resource. It's for everybody to enjoy, but they're treating it like it's something that we have to be careful or it's going to go away.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. Like, I mean, we pay a lot of money for these parks to be maintained, upkeep, and obviously, they have the Billy Center for Beach cleanups every year where people go out and donate their time and go help clean these beaches for
Yeah.
free. I
Yeah.
mean, but at the same time, you're going out there and you're trying to enjoy yourself, and you don't really have that calmness and everything to be able to enjoy yourself and stuff like that. And it was crazy to us. I mean, even then, like we know it's considered one of the most dangerous stretches of beaches because of drug and human trafficking. However, at the same time, you don't walk on eggshells back up in there because you're trying to enjoy yourself, but at the same time, trying to reach people when an emergency happens or something that could be an emergency, and you can't find nobody.
We
We
should
were
be a
out there.
team. Now, let me just talk about that subject of it being dangerous because I've slept down there so many times. I mean, there was a 10-year period that we were down there every weekend, right? Never have I had any problems with people with drugs, uh, immigrants. I've seen hundreds of them, but
Mhm.
they've never threatened me. The biggest danger on that beach is a drunk. It's as simple as that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Them immigrants, they want to go through. They don't want you to bother with them. They might ask you for help. I've had to do that. I never put them in my vehicle, but I have rendered help. For example,
Yes.
there was a group of 4 of them, maybe 3 years ago. They got really badly burned. The women were really in a bad way, and they flagged me down and asked for help. I went up to the next camp. I told them to walk to the next camp. I went to the camp, told them that these people are going to come up. They're not a danger. I then went to the turtle shack of the 39 and asked them to contact Coast Guards to get these people help.
Mm.
That's as much as it is. I didn't put them in the truck or anything, but they're human beings and they do need help.
No, exactly. And we actually ran into that. Guy came into our camp asking for a bottle of water or whatever, and we knew immediately what it was.
Right.
So we gave him like 9 or 10 waters, whatever he could carry, and he went off into the dunes. But knowing that beach is so long and how long it could take off of there, and it's a trek. I mean, people can die along the way.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were making the calls to get them help because at the end of the day, they are human. They're just fighting for survival is all it is.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you got to be about your wits because you just don't know.
Do you remember
How
Oz?
we put it.
When Oz
Was that?
got bit by that bull shark? Do you remember that?
No.
He was at Mansfield, right? He was trying to get the hook out of a bull shark, bit his hand really bad. He had to have surgery on it. But
Mm.
he had to come all the way up and he broke down, fix it. He was bleeding badly. But he managed to get off. You are a lot. Do you want a real scary story? Shall I tell you a good one? Will we scare your people off?
No, no. I was actually gonna say what's up to everybody real quick. We got Toby, Jose, Camilo, Ray, Homer. Yeah, what's up, guys? We are up to how many people watching? We're up to 12. It's a slow morning, Nick. I'm sorry. I
That's all
think you
right.
did scare them off already. But all right, guys. So if y'all don't know Mr. Nick Myers, this is Nick Myers, a breakaway tackle here in Corpus Christi. And I've been kind of talking about it the last few weeks too about y'all's casting deal on January 21st. If y'all want to learn how to distance cast at a better way and meet a bunch of guys that are in the casting tournaments there, be sure to go check them out at the Dick Clayburgh Park in Kingsville. Correct?
Correct. 9 o'clock Saturday morning. And the objective is come along with just whatever you've got, right? And we're going to measure your cast at the beginning, and then we'll measure your cast at the end. And I bet you if you haven't had any training, we're going to be able to double your distance. So that's what we're looking forward to do.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
Dick Clayburgh Park, Kingsville, this Saturday. Now for a scary story. Going through
Where's
the
my
high
popcorn?
banks.
Let me grab my popcorn.
Yeah, get ready. Going through the high banks years ago, there used to be a 45-gallon drum just past the 20 that was full of sand. It sat there for years, right? So one day I'm coming in and there's a brand new Ford pickup, big one. And it was in the first gut of the 20 and it had broke its back and it was just parked up, right? So I took all pictures of it and I went fishing down south. When I come back, there's police everywhere, all right? That was a stolen truck, but inside the cab was covered in blood. What happened was the Mexican mafia had got a lawyer who had crossed them, took him down there, cut his fingers off, shot him in the head and left him behind the dune, right?
Wow.
They were coming off with that truck, saw that big old 45-gallon drum, thought they'd hit it and knock it into the water. It was full of sand. So the story goes, this is true, right? They flagged someone down and got them to give them a lift off. As they come off, they borrowed his phone and made a phone call to someone to come and get them. That's how they caught him.
Wow.
Pretty good one, isn't it?
Damn. That works out there. I've actually been down there during Sharkathon one year. I was fishing with my good buddy Ricky Marks. And I
We're
was up on the
freezing up. Hang on, Ray Sanderville says we're freezing up. What's that?
sometimes there's too many people on the telephone tower. It's kind of like your phone, you
Oh,
get a
with you.
drop call and stuff like that. But while I was up on the rack, I was actually fighting a shark or I was doing something on the rack, and I hear, I see vehicles off in the distance and they're coming down beach. And during Sharkathon, that's what you kind of expect. And then, as they come behind us, it was boom, 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 boom. I mean, they were hauling, they were going 80 to 100.
That wasn't through a stingray.
No joke on that. Well, about 3 hours later, they're coming back, but there's guys off of each vehicle with fully automatic or assault rifles off of each side, two per vehicle or two per side per vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And then the trucks, you can see the load of I don't know if it was weed or cocaine or whatever it was, but 3 truckloads were completely filled on the back end, and they were fully armed going down, and they were hauling butt back that way. And I was like, damn, I said, it's like,
Something's going down.
and everybody talked about it. Like, that's what we were talking about. We weren't even talking about the fishing. We were talking about, them going and we assumed it was, the park rangers or whatever. But yeah, they were going about 80 to 100 miles an hour up and down the beach while doing that. But if we try to do that to get somebody off with the stingray, hit, yeah, look what happens.
Yeah. I'll tell you something that might be of interest is I've noticed a change in the beach over the last 5 years, I'd say, right? What we used to get, when we talk a weed event 5 years ago, that weed was 6 foot deep and it was all the way to Mansfield, right?
Yep.
We haven't seen that in maybe 4 years.
Yep.
Right? We had smooth skin puffer turn up last year that I've never seen on that beach all the time I've fished. Right? So then we had red tide. We were getting occurrences of red tide. That all went now to Florida.
The current changed.
We had a current change.
Yep.
Now, so these are also, I've noticed that the water line to the dune is, you do get the low tides, you are getting them, but we had a lot of time this year when that water was nearly to the dune line. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
November, which was supposed to be, which is the time of year I recommend everyone to come on holiday to beautiful Corpus Christi, right? November is the hot spot. That's when the fishing's the best. It's nice time. Mullet are running. All that went badly wrong. This year, I was down the beach, not this Sunday, last Sunday. 5 dead young pelicans, right? 2 common booby, right? Young ones, all young. The mullet moved off short. It used to be in close in November, December. It would be running down the beach thick for quite a long time, right? This year, we had 1 or 2 days where it was like that, but then it stopped. Now, if you watch skimmers when they learn to skim, right? The young ones will be following. They put their beak in the water and they'll do somersaults because they can't get it properly. Them young pelicans that I'm seeing dead on the beach, 5 last week, right? I think the mullet have moved out. All the pelicans I'm seeing working in November, December were like a mile offshore. The young ones can't dive and get that bait, and I think they starve to death.
Wow. So it's changing our fishing and everything even further than, I mean, exactly what you're talking about with the red tide and everything else that I've been noticing. You know, we've been talking on our channel for months now. It's something that we've been talking about, but it's not only done that, it's done more. Like, haven't you noticed in the last several years, bigger sharks are being caught and produced on our beaches?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
I wondered if that was anything to do with the amount, the greater amount. Hang on one sec. Marie, get us the coffee and I'll love you forever. All right. All right.
I'm amazed you didn't come back. Well, you already do. What are you talking about? Like,
so what was I talking about?
we're talking about the sharks and how we've noticed that in the last several years, bigger and more quantities of big shark. And
But
I'm not talking.
do you think like the sport is like developed? I mean, the stuff you sell is making it a lot easier for people to get into shark than what they were 10 years ago.
It's that and the knowledge that is being put out there. A lot more people are,
And drones.
yeah, it's making it easier for people to get baits out there and stuff like that. Whereas before it was nothing but kayaking. But at the
Right.
same time, the knowledge of the reels, the line, the tackle. I mean, yeah, okay, there was Roy's, but in reality, how many tackle shops really pushed shark fishing?
Right.
None.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But I was also thinking how the sport has changed. Like you with your braids and that. I mean, it's not unusual to see 500 yards or more, being placed to bait that far out. I mean, it's amazing. I wish that there was more information for beginners coming in on the equipment choice they require. Because at the minute, you could theoretically get a drone. You could put massive, great old pen reel on it, an ugly stick, and you could run a bait out there and quite easily hook a big ass hammer.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And you
Oh
haven't got the equipment to bring it in quickly, or the techniques of how to remove the hooks. That's where I think you guys could help people coming in more. Maybe.
that You nailed it right there. A lot of people come in talking about they want to get into shark fishing and they have found my channel. I'm like, well, what are you trying to do? Like, I need you to be real specific. Do you want to cast? Do you want to kayak? Do you want to do a little bit of both? Well, I don't know. I said, well, before you spend money, I normally turn them away to go watch my channel more,
Right.
so that way they can do some more research on it because it's not cheap. You can make the mistake of going cheap up front and finding out you love it too much, and then you throw that all away because it boils down to your comment there too. A lot of people are getting into catch and release policies or procedures, so they want to catch these big old sharks, but they don't want to kill them. But
Right.
they also have realized that the gear they originally invested into is not going to help them accomplish that goal. They put too much stress on the sharks and stuff like that, wastes too much time. So then they get rid of that and they reinvest. So what we try to do is get people on the right track the first time, knowledge, gear, and tackle. So that way, when they do invest into it, they buy once, cry once, and now they learn to maintain their gear. And
Right.
also, too, it's still pushing so that way our kids' generation can enjoy more of these majestic animals out there. Because it took me, oh my gosh, what was it, 8 years before I broke 9 foot.
Right.
And then it was like another several years after that before I broke 12. And now guys are going out there and catching 9 and 10, 11, 12, 13 footers within a year of their first, or within their first year of shark fishing,
Yeah.
which is the goal of me as being in the shark fishing industry and the knowledge that's out there. But a lot of it also has to do with what we were talking about right there. That current change is now bringing those bigger sharks that have normally gone to the Florida side first, bringing all the red tide our way, has now gone the opposite way to where it's bringing them our way first, and all the red tide's getting pushed off into Florida.
Do you know an interesting point used to be? I don't know if it's still work. Hang on, Jack. Yeah. Yeah. Good. I agree with you, Jack. That's a good move. The Billy always told me the current would come through the point of Florida and it would go around sort of Louisiana, Corpus Christi down, and it would take 2.5 years. And I remember the dead zone used to go, I watched it every summer. It'd come out the Mississippi, it'd move south, almost get down to Matagorda. But I
Yeah.
think with the current change, it's sort of holding it back and sending it towards Florida with the red tide. I think the red tide directly comes out of nitrate surges out of the Mississippi. I'm absolutely convinced that's where it's coming from.
And haven't you noticed too, in the last few years, there's been a lot less reports of that flesh-eating bacteria coming out?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's right.
Big
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Big time. And
right.
they said it's always here, that the bacteria is here, but
Mm.
only during certain times or events that it reacts violently to human contact. That it's always there, but we don't always have that problem. So that's why they were always encouraging everybody that as soon as they get a cut, to treat it, to cover it, and then to continue their fishing.
Nasty stuff, nasty.
Yeah.
Have you seen it up the East Coast? It's eats into their flesh, even if they haven't got a wound. I mean,
Oh
yeah,
wow.
it's dangerous stuff up there. But they've got a lot of pig farms. Again, increase in nitrates. That's what the problem is. And until we accept, I was giving talks 12 years ago to round tables about it. And I pointed to the Mississippi then, was saying that's where the problem was. A lot of
Wow.
people like Texas Parks and Wildlife, I might add, when I bring it to their attention, it would be, oh, it's all right, it's natural, Nick. Well, so's cancer, but you go to a hospital. Do you know what I mean? The first
Yeah.
recorded event was in 1800. Here's another point. That red tide, when it did hit our beaches, was apocalyptic. I'm
Oh yeah.
talking 50 yards, 61 miles of dead fish. What I did one year was we counted them, all right? So what we did, we went to the beach every mile for 7 miles. We counted 100 yards, marked it out, and counted every fish and every species that was in it. Right? We then multiplied that by 61 to come up with what was the totals. Millions.
Wow.
Right? But what was the weirdest thing? Guess what the most prolific fish on that beach is?
Catfish?
No, so that's the most fish you would find dead in red tide. What would you think it would be?
Well, I'll go with skipjack or speckled trout.
Eel.
Eels.
More than mullet. It was eels, mullet. That's how it went. All right. And I've still got them numbers. And someone's saying mullet. No, it was eel. You never see them. Right. But them
Yeah.
sand eels, you do see them in red tide. Little eels about that long.
Yeah.
They doubled everything else.
Wow.
Right? So I think what happens, the red tide has a penetration of maybe 3 or 4 foot at the most. So you're not seeing the deep offshore species you don't see washed up, right? But as it comes into the beach, so that 4 foot is a greater percentage of the water depth. It's 100% by the time it's in the first or second gut.
Do you think more of it on the penetration of the red tide is because too there's a lot more water salinity coming through, like a lot more current running through underneath it rather than on top?
No, I really think it. I think what happens is it lays like the nitrates, the sewage, everything comes out and it lays on the bottom. It kills off the oxygen, and then that comes up to the top. All right, and I think it's just a small layer. It might be like 2 or 3 foot. Now, when I was and it comes in when you get close to the beach, that's every bit of water you got. So anything in there's dead. And it happens quick. I was fishing Cedar Bayou many years ago, and a red tide event come in, and it's just like pop, 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 pop. They come up dead that quick.
Yeah, and it also got so bad it got into the bays. I mean, people were getting
Oh yeah.
hospitalized along the bay system because it was. I mean, if you got anywhere near downtown, you were running into that aerosol, coughing event.
Mm-hmm.
And us as fishermen, if there's a will, there's a way. We
Oh
learned
yeah.
that if we took the Hall's throat lozenge, the lemon drop, and we kept that in our mouths, we could actually be out there and fishing. Because sharks were the only species that wasn't affected by the fish kills with the red tide.
Right.
So for us, shark fishing, keep
Yeah.
going. And we didn't have to worry about nobody else because all the other fish were dead. Nobody wanted to be out there except us dumb shark fishermen. But hey, we caught some monsters.
I had I was riding a Honda then. I had a 650 Honda in the last red tide event, and I had a gas mask on. I looked like something apocalyptic. I was driving up and down that beach looking for stuff. But it's a horrendous thing. It's the most horrendous thing you can imagine. First recorded in 1890 something, and
Wow.
they say that proves that it's natural. No, that proves there was people crapping in the bays back then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow. It has to do a lot more with the farming industry and stuff like that, where
Oh
they've
yeah,
got more, you know, products that they can use on the farms to obviously make the soil grow fast, better product faster and stuff like that. And then with the large rain offs and stuff like that, just push it right into the bay systems, and there you go. It's a
and
catalyst for it.
right, and especially if you've had like drought times, because that increases the amount, and then you have big rain showers come where you're getting a month's rain in one day.
Yep.
Someone just
Yeah.
posted, I saw their kids in the water. Yeah, I've seen that as well. They've got no idea. No one warns them off either. They don't say red tide, keep out the water.
Yeah. Yeah. No joke on that.
And I know a guy who come over from England. who had to give up work because he never recovered from a red tide event.
Wow.
Give him like an asthma thing.
Yeah.
Now, also, when I was studying to talk about red tide to these clubs and things then, because there was a big push and there was a big symposium about what we should do with weed, because the weed event was on, like every year, Sargasso. So they had these big meetings. And I said, don't worry about the weed, mate. It's the red tide we should be talking about. That's
Exactly.
the killer. You know, that
Yeah.
weed. Actually, someone Tony Amos, dear old boy, I don't know if you knew him. He told me that all the grasses behind the dune line, they get their nutrients from the weed washing in off the beach.
Breaking down and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's blown over, and that's what gives you your grasses and stuff. It's pretty cool, isn't it?
And talking about that too. Now those guys in Florida, along with the weather tide and everything else, guess what they're getting? The seaweed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I personally think, right, if you think about it, right, Sargasso weed, at one time they used to say Sargasso just come out of the Sargasso Sea in the Atlantic, right? That's the only place it was. When I lived in Portugal, I run a windsurfing school out there. The eels used to come from the Sargasso Sea to this lagoon that I had in Portugal years ago. So I was very much aware of the Sargasso Sea and how important it is. Our turtles all go to the Sargasso Sea. They stay there for 10 years before they come back. All right. Now, forgotten where the hell I was going.
Old man. Old man.
Well, then we started getting our own beds in the Gulf of Mexico. Big beds, right? And that's what we were getting the problem with. But if you think about it, if there's nitrates, which they use to make grains grow and things, right? The Sargasso is eating the nitrate, so it's our friend, really. It's reducing the nitrate content in the water, which will eventually turn into red tide and kill the fish. The Sargasso weed is almost living off that, off the stuff that's washed out. Do you see what I mean? So it's like nature's way of looking after us.
Well, the movie Jurassic Park put it plain and simple, man. Nature finds a way.
Oh yeah. Do you know the other thing about nature I figured out? Like, you get people kill hardheads and they throw them up the frigging beach, drives me nuts. Right? They will punch your tires and everything.
Yeah.
Nothing in nature is over designed. And I'll tell you where I come up with that one. What's up, Nick? Someone's just come on. Your gear at Aaron's shop. All right. So anyhow, hi mate, whoever you are. What the fuck was that? Where was I? I was going to tell you something of little importance, I'm sure. No, it was good, and I can't remember. All right, go on to something. I'm 72 years old. Isn't that freaking amazing? Oh, nature. Got it. All right, over-designed. So there I was, sitting on the beach, pins, dead of night. We had a big fire going, right? And I watched a crab come out of the water, walk up the beach towards the light, straight into the fire. Right? And I sat there and I thought about that. Well, that's the weirdest shit. And then I thought, nature doesn't give it heat sensors because it's never going to come into contact with heat in its environment. So it's not over-designed. It doesn't give it to it. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a wow moment. I go, wow, that's pretty cool, right? But then here's another one, right? So I used to run on Whitecap every day, all right? And I used to run past these sunflowers. And I used to think to me, what way are they looking? Are they Why are they facing that way? Are they following the sun? Well, it wasn't that. So I realized one day what it is. Them sunflowers turn and put their back to the wind. So their seeds go that way. They go downwind from them, right? I thought, that's clever as shit. So another day, there I am, I'm running, right? But the flowers are pointing south. And I thought, well, that's weird. 10 minutes later, a north wind come in. They were ready for it, mate.
Dang it.
That's a
Well,
wow, isn't it?
I tell you what, Nick, you do notice a lot, boss, and that is pretty awesome to think that way throughout the day, every day. Because I mean, I know for you, it don't shut off. You know, you're attent to your surroundings, your environment, and stuff like that. And you know, I don't know what your schedule is, but I do want to thank you before we get pushed off or whatever
Right.
for coming on our channel, guys. And please share your handles, your web pages and stuff like that, so everybody can know if they don't know you already.
Okay, I'm on YouTube. You go to YouTube so it's youtube.com at Nickaway. All right, and they can get my beach reports and everything.
You see that comment by MB on there?
Well,
So
there's
be like a sunflower, don't piss into the wind.
now there you go. Never over design.
Yeah.
But it's
No,
like, so what I was saying about them hardheads, they've got a
yeah,
job to. They clear up a lot of crap and stuff, and I know we hate them, but fling them back in the water.
yeah. No, and it's more than just the tires and stuff like that. You got to think, man. We take our kids out there.
Yeah.
And once they start breaking down all that bacteria that can form in there, I mean, that can get real bad. By the time you get off beach, get that wound clean, you know, right and stuff like that, man, it could really do some damage, guys. So always remember that it's not, you know, yeah, it sucked dealing with them all the time, but you'll see me on my videos where I'm going catfish
Jacked
after
up
catfish
leather
after
work.
catfish, and they
Thank you.
all go back into the water. I don't ever sit there and
Good.
throw them up on the bank or
No.
anything like that. Now I'll use them for bait,
I've
but the
caught
head will,
redfish on them.
yeah, redfish, shark,
Yeah.
all day long. But I throw the head back in the water if I'm not going to use it. Like
Yeah.
I don't leave it on shore for
No.
us to get messed up. You know what I mean? At least in the water, it'll break down. Crabs will eat it. Shark will eat it. A bull red will eat it, or something. You know what I mean? But don't leave it. Don't leave it on the beach, guys. That can really mess some things up for you and everybody else around you that day or whatever.
Yeah.
So we saw guys catching stingrays on Mitchell's, cutting, throwing them back on the bank. Yeah, that sucks, man. But yeah, no, Nick. Again, I'm glad we figured this out because I'd love to have you on the channel more often, you know, throughout the year and stuff like that. I know you were talking about, you got a good buddy there that's talking about pompano fishing.
Yes. He actually had a go, but that
Hey,
fishery, I think, has become one of the most important fisheries we've got on our seashore. Because,
mm,
like, in the month of November, so September, October, November, you'll see tons of people, long rods, just focusing on that pompano fishery. It's a really valuable fishery. And,
yeah.
I'm just chuffed as hell. It's so good. I love it. It's my favorite thing to catch and eat.
Haven't you noticed the permits that are coming through now? Like the
I'm hearing
all
people
this
are getting them.
changed. A
Yeah,
whole new dynamic of monster sized pompano are coming through, and
right,
like I said, they're not just pompano. These are permit. I mean, they're
right.
too dang big to be a freaking pompano. You
Isn't
know what I
that
mean?
great? Isn't that awesome that that's actually happening? You
Mm-hmm.
know, it really is good. Hey
What's
guys, I've got to go. All right, I've got to get to work. Albert, thanks very much for inviting me on your show. I enjoyed it. And Jack, is it Jack, the leather guy?
Jacob? Yep.
Jacob, thanks for doing what he kept sorting my posts out and trying to help me with memory. Tell him thank you. All right,
But
guys.
you'll love the guys, man. They're really good because I'll be doing the same thing and I forget them and they'll type something. Oh, okay, and I get back on
I've
track or
got
something.
Marie is always telling me, I always go, man, my memory's going. She said, "It better not. You're going to be in big trouble." I will be in trouble. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's definitely getting worse.
Yeah.
But I did see a good documentary on singularity, right? And they're saying that by the year 2030, right, the AI will have reached a level where there will be no Alzheimer's, no cancer, nothing. AI is going to bail us out of it. I'm hoping. I'm going to get a hat with sort of implants and shit. All right. Love you all. Thank you very much for inviting me on, Albert.
Thank you, Nick. Nick
All right.
Myers, a breakaway tackle, guys.
Catch you
And
all
yes,
later.
yep. Check it later, boss. Got it? All right. Yeah. So real quick, I'm gonna send another invite out real quick, and I just got to make sure that it is in here. Hold on. All right. So I sent out this one. It may take a minute or two for him to get it. Uh, give me a second, guys. But that was pretty cool. That, he gave a lot more insight into this whole deal that I've been talking about the current change in the Gulf and stuff like that, and why we are seeing a whole different dynamic of fishing out here, guys. It's the fisheries have changed, and it's not just me that is noticing it, but we've got Rodney right here, and he's going to come in. Hey, what's up, boss?
How you doing there?
Doing good, doing good. We just had Nick Myers, a breakaway tackle, on the channel and stuff, and he actually had to go over there real quick and stuff like that. But I was kind of talking about you earlier and stuff like that about where you were retiring from and stuff. But if you can introduce yourself to our channel, we got about 20 people on, I think. Let's see. 13. We're kind of slow this morning, but a lot more people will end up watching it because you've got some great knowledge. I mean, you blew me away. It was only 5 minutes of being in the shop, so that's a bold statement right there, boss.
Yes, I knew when I was 5 years old I was either going to be a marine biologist or a rock star. I played the guitar, so I went the marine biologist route. So I just recently, the past year, retired from Texas Parks and Wildlife here in Corpus Christi, Texas. I managed the fish stock. I was the manager for the fish stocking program. Our Red Drum main hatchery in Flower Bluff. We have two other hatcheries along the Texas coast, and so I had the privilege of working at all three. And like I said, I just recently retired. And so we stocked all the bays and estuaries with spotted sea trout, red drum, and southern flounder as well. So
That's awesome. I know a few local fishermen here that will go out and when they catch a certain species like a flounder or red or a trout that they know could be beneficial to y'all's program, they actually are in contact with y'all to keep them alive and get them into y'all's hands there.
yes, there's it's very important that we maintain the fish population on the Texas coast because fishing annually brings over $3.8 billion to our local economy of Texas, that's including Texas. And so there's various ways that we maintain the fish population. And so with that said, one of them is actually handling the fish. That's one of the things I was mentioning to you. We know the red drum, pretty hardy fish, got hard scales, and so you can pretty much hand them with your hand and get the hook and put them back in the water. But spotted sea trout uh, and southern flounder, they're a different story. They're very delicate fish, and so whenever we go catch them and brood stock, and the public helps us obtain brood stock, we don't handle with by the hand, the back of the spotted sea trout or a flounder because they're very delicate skin, small, uh, small scales on it, and they got slime on the fish for a purpose to protect. So if you catch a spotted sea trout and you're getting on, you got the back of your hand or your back of the fish, and you get the hook out and you put it back in the water, well, you're taking the mucus off the fish, which is very important. It protects them. So you'll see that handprint a year later in the water as if the fish survives because it'll easily get secondary bacteria infection and die. So we protect fish with hatchery. We use bags. We put them in compartments, haul them, take them back to our hatchery. Then we put them in the bags and take them into the fish tanks, the spawning tanks. You can put about 2 dozen of spotted sea trout per tank, and also same thing with flounder. Probably about up to 30 to 40 flounder per tank. So we don't fish directly. So when we go if you catch a spotted sea trout or a red drum or a spotted sea trout or a southern flounder, you can just hold the line up, and you use the hook out, let it fall back in the water, or you can use a bucket. You use water, contain the water, put in the fish comes from, put it in the bucket, and let it fall in the bucket. Put it in, then go put it in the water. And those are just really good fisherman tactics to use save our fish. Everything's important to maintain our population. We do krill surveys at the docks on the fishing piers. Our scientists, it's important that you give them the information, how much money you spend, what type of tackle, and all this. And those statistics are really important, and it determines, and also how much money we spend. And we go by county, by the county. Exeter County from San Antonio is our #1 county that puts money into the Texas coast because although we go fishing here in Corpus Christi, we spend all this money, but they're coming down with their families on their boats and traveling, using hotel rooms and restaurants and everything else, and that generates money. So for them, Travis, also from Austin, and you got Calhoun County near Houston and Victoria, those are important counties as well that generate money for our economy besides us. So it's very important to maintain our species. It's very important for our economy. So it keeps going up. It's probably over 4 billion now and annually. It generates into our economy, and so to be smart fishermen is to take care of our fisheries as well.
And when we started talking about that on on handling fish and stuff like that, that I felt that was real important to a lot of the guys here because there's a lot of fishermen out here that really pride themselves on catching these monster sized trout.
Yeah.
And they're handling them and releasing them back in there, and a lot of them may not be aware of that situation right there. They know, okay, the fish slime is there to protect them and stuff like that, but they may not realize how long it actually can affect the fish.
Yes, definitely.
Through its lifetime of doing that and handling it and stuff like that. So it's just, I felt it was a great idea to share it to the channel because obviously you're somebody that's been there, has lived it, that you've got your whole backing on. For somebody like me, it would be an assumption, I guess. You know what I mean? You lived it, you've seen it from year one to year, whatever. Hey, man, that fish still has that marks when we handled it that day. And so y'all changed your whole dynamic of handling fish, returning fish, or doing whatever you do with them. And then, two, it also blew me away. When I had said, well, man, y'all must have some monsters. And you're like, no, really, we don't.
Yes.
And that was a cool one to learn and share, too. So,
Yeah.
if you'd like to share that with them too, because like I was saying, I've always just thought y'all had some of the monstrous sized trout and reds there, but y'all really don't.
Yeah, just because you have a big fish doesn't mean you're going to get the most viable, good eggs to hatch out. You want some small. Yeah, of course, the minimum size is 15 to 25 inches for trout. We bring just above the limit, and also some big trout in there mixed up in there. But just because you got a big trout or a big red drum doesn't mean you're going to get the best quality eggs. So we have a mixture of size in the tanks. The fish they get tank oriented very quickly. I used to look at the fish every day, especially after lunch, kind of calm part of the day, and I can just tell if they're breathing hard. There's a reason. Do we have to treat the water quality to help any issues going out in the there? But just because it's a big trout doesn't mean you're going to get the best viable eggs. to hatch out. You want a high hatch out statistics. You don't want you want a lot of your eggs to develop well and hatch out to a small fish fry. And when they hatch out of the egg for 3 days, they have a yolk sac. Then it disappears, gets overworked, and then that's when we stock them on the third day. We stock them early in the morning into the ponds so they can grow out. And so you're going through all this work for a hatchery, and money for the public. So we want to do the best quality egg development, water temperatures, the agitation of the water, the bubbling, and then the hatch out, and then to stocking them in the ponds, and then to grow them out for 30 to 40 days to about to 2 inches, 4 fish. And so we want a good, strong product, and because we're doing this for the people of Texas. That's our mission, is to maintain the fishery and for people to enjoy fishing, all ages.
Amen to that right there. It's get them out of and off the Xboxes and into some tackle boxes.
Right. That's right. So, and so it's a real self-rewarding job, career doing that, and it's just that's what I plan to do. I was walking on the beaches and I was 5 years old. I had a fishing pole in my hand and already knew what my goal was going to be. So, I love fish. All of us have it in our hearts, So it's always good that we do the right thing. No one's looking or anything. We want to do the right thing.
Yes, sir. That is one of the biggest things that I talk about on the channel at least 2 or 3 times a month. Do the right thing when nobody's looking, guys, because at the same time, you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the next generation of fishermen that are coming behind you. Are you going to leave them something to enjoy the way you have, or are you going to take it away from them? And we've been losing a bunch of fishing spots because of, just being trashed out, not maintained, not doing the right thing when nobody was looking.
Yes. Yeah.
One
of the best things with trout too, if it regurgitates the hook, weight fishing is a one way that you can really handle it. You start to handle the fish, but things you can do. I use a nail polish to put the marks, the minimum and maximum of trout and red drum on my pole from the butt to where the inch mark is, and that way I don't have to touch the fish. I hold it up with a line and get a good estimate of the length, and then I let it go into the water. Because if you start handling the fish and put it, like I said, you handle the fish there real hard while you're in the water, wade fishing, and it can get secondary infection easily. So there's things you can do, to have good fishermen, etiquette. The etiquette's very important on, for any fish, and the trout and the salmon, especially stuff that infection. So very important to realize that.
One of my subscribers asked if you've had any success with flounder, and I know the program does flounder. So
okay, I can tell you that for over 40 years, off the coast of China has been stocking flounder for over 40 years, and about 40%, 30 to 40% of the flounder off the coast of China come from their hatcheries, and that's what our percent rate is here in Texas for our hatcheries. You don't want to have 50, 80% fish from hatcheries. The hatcheries are used to help maintain the fishery. So about 30 to 40% of the red drum and trout and flounder are out there, or they come from the hatcheries. All right. And we don't want to have more than that. We just want to contribute to maintain the population for the people of Texas. And so, so with that said, they're the only ones that had spawned. So we ramped up back in like around 2010, 2012. We ramped up a flounder stocking program. All the fishing seminars I went all over USA, the conventions I went to be a part of. I gave seminars too on a hatchery, our hatchery productions and our species. What we do it, we ramped up. It was tough because everybody we went to these seminars, they said the greatest day was they didn't have to work with flounder no more. because they couldn't get them to survive in the tanks, the secondary infection, trying to get them to spawn, what photo periods, and everything. Well, we ended up becoming successful and spawning. I remember our first spawn of flounder in our tanks back around 2010, 2012, and we got the flounder to spawn and started stocking fingerlings about a decade ago. And so we were so happy at that because we made a big success there on something that we achieved that people were having a difficult problem with. There's difficult species to spawn, and China's the only one that's been successful. And we started a program here in Texas. So we're stocking not only red drum and trout, now we're doing early stigmas and we stock them.
Awesome.
And we actually then went to our infrastructure at Texas Parks and Wildlife, and they gave us the funding, and we made a flounder brood room as well, specialized tanks, lighting, everything in that. So flounder, we have about when we stock flounder, we put about 30 to 40 fish per tank. And what happens is the big female, we had video, we have different universities bring their marine scientists to our hatchery to do scientific studies on our fish to help us out, spawning, egg development, different ones. And we had some videotape, some night cameras placed in the tanks. And the way the flounder spawns, that the male flounder rises up kind of like a saucer up and down and releases eggs, and then several males under it are fertilizing it. So we had so many studies we had over it, and to learn about the species, and we were so happy to be able to achieve being able to start stocking them in the bays and estuaries.
Dang, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is there a site or something that people, if they want to do some like further research on to how y'all's development of these different deals of
Yes.
fish reproduction and stuff like that, how it's coming along, or maybe how they can help? Because I know
Yeah.
funding is always a big issue and stuff like that. Maybe they can find ways to maybe donate and or go out and volunteer some time. Because I mean,
Yes.
that's
Here's the best thing to do if you ever want to get into a certain career or somewhere. Volunteer. That's how I started. I volunteered. Started going 1993. I started volunteering at the hatchery in 1995. I got hired here in Flower Bluff, Corpus Christi, Texas, as a technician, and I rose to my biologist position and as a hatchery manager. So, so that's the best way of doing it, is to volunteer on something that you're really interested in. But these studies are done through universities, Texas A&M here, Texas A&M College Station, different. I have marine sciences programs, and their professors contact our university, and we give the master students, or the ones that do they got to do a scientific study, or that they can do one on a fish at our hatchery, as they communicate with our management at Texas Parks and Wildlife, and the in charge of our stocking program, uh, and so that's how you get into it. You got to take your degree, and your master's. That's where you start doing my work was on uh, spotted sea trout production, and it helped through my work. It helped out produce more trout the way we found out things through my research. Ups and downs, and ways to have a better product, and more abundant, how to raise. So you got to feed fish, got to feed the trout more feed into the pond, pellet feed, than you do red drum or nothing. They eat a lot of fish, real aggressive. There's things like that. You learn things from a graduate student's thesis project, and that's where we do it. We actually started too with Texas Tech. They graduate. They do research on our fish too as well. I know one woman, one of her first studies from the first woman from Texas Tech, she had put microphones in the spotted sea trout tank, and usually the fish spawn at night. And so there's 3 different types of drumming that the trout make, popping in the tank. And this one type of popping sound that was being produced that was reported, that was when the most viable eggs, good eggs, were being produced, and then
Wow.
yeah. So there, it's so fascinating, the science world. And any organism, any species, a deer or bear, anything is just really amazing to work on. Self-rewarding and everything when you get good results that can help, especially help out the people of Texas. I mean, fishermen. I'm a fisherman myself, so
Yeah, yeah. And are you going to go fishing today? I mean, I know this front's rolling through. Is it going to be something that you're going to get out there and get
yeah.
after it?
What's been on my mind the past few days is buying my first kayak. I've always been a wade fisherman, but I'm thinking of getting me a kayak, and it's in my blood. I love going out there, so I love fish. I love fish. It's been my life and everything, and I made it my career. And I could have went a different route. I could have went to something
I
else,
could,
but
I
I
could, I can just imagine the amount of insider behind the scenes knowledge you learned by working over there. What kind of fisherman you really can be.
yes, and
That sounds like a very scary, like.
yeah, and we do have fish events where we go collecting. The public provides fish to bring back to the hatchery. You can take hatchery tours at our hatcheries, and you just go to Texas Parks and Wildlife Hatchery, saltwater fish, and saltwater hatcheries, or even inland hatcheries too. Inland hatcheries. So I've retired. I actually already retired just recently, being with Texas Parks and Wildlife, but I'm thinking of going back to that field again as well. I've been looking around, but I wouldn't mind going as a technician, even to another hatchery, and just finish off my life working with the fish. So
That's awesome.
we'll see how
Well, I
it goes.
do. Oh, go. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Rodney. But I do appreciate your time and all the knowledge you shared with us, and I look forward to you coming back into our shop and us talking more fish, and maybe we can go out and wet a line sometimes. I'm not too much into wade fishing just because I've
Yeah,
always had a bad hip, but I finally got my hip fixed. But I'm still,
yeah.
very respectful of the fish and sharks that are in the water. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
anytime,
me.
any type of fishing is good for me. I enjoy it. It's so relaxing and so self rewarding, and it's part of my life. It always be.
Awesome. Well, I do appreciate you, Rodney Gomez, for coming out and coming to our channel. This is Team Hard Life YouTube. And again, Rodney, thank you for all the work you did,
Yes.
while you were there with Texas Parks and Wildlife on the breeding stocks and on that. And I'm glad to hear that y'all went through a lot of success. I mean, obviously, there was probably a lot of failure in there too, because I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
that's the only way you're going to learn. I mean, you
Right.
gotta sometimes you got to fall to get back up. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
But I'm glad it really turned around for y'all. I mean, I can't imagine the amount of work and knowledge and just endless hours of just putting pen to paper and making these things happen for
Yeah.
us. A big thank you from all of us, but for again, like I said, just helping maintain our fishing populations here
Yeah.
locally. Because I know with the red tide, man, it did some decimations over here that naturally would have taken decades for it to rebound the way it has. And with
Yeah.
y'all being able to help I mean, what y'all consider a small helping hand was actually a huge helping hand for our fisheries and our local waters. So thank you very much for y'all doing what y'all do. So
Yeah. Have a great day. God bless y'all.
God bless you too, boss. You have a good one.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. All right. Okay. All right, guys. So again, that was Mr. Rodney Gomez right there. And I would like, let me see if he's still on here. Hold on, let me do a quick little phone call. I got somebody that I'd like to bring on the channel, and I just got to make sure he's available. What are you doing, bro? Oh, okay. Are you up and about, dressed? Well, I'd like to invite you to my YouTube live so you can talk for a little bit. Well, I don't need you in your full zoot suit, bro. Throw on a shirt. All right. Hey, just do me. No, you don't have to come over here. I'll send you a link, and wherever you're at, you just go on your phone. It'll come via text, and you just follow the link on your phone. It'll come as a text message, and you just click on the link. And okay, and also too, just make sure that your YouTube app is updated. So what you do is go to the Play Store, pull up YouTube, and if it says update, just hit the update. Do okay, boss. All right, bye bye. Awesome, awesome. Well, I got a real treat for y'all guys. I mean, besides the two people I've already brought on the channel, which is pretty awesome. This is what I intend on doing, guys. It's really, there's so much knowledge that I have. At the same time, there's so much more that is out there. And all we got to do is look for it. You know what I mean? And I'm going to show y'all that I am committed to that event, because a lot of times, you know, yes, the Storytelling Thursday is awesome. I love sharing stories of what I've been through to get where I'm at today. And, you know, of the many times I've fallen on my face, learning the knowledge that I have done and, you know, don't really want other people to do the same mistakes that I have done. Hey, he's like my dad. I mean, I tell you what, you know, I'm not his son, but let me give you a little more behind the scenes of who this is that I'm bringing on the channel. All right. So as a young fisherman growing up with my family, my parents, you know, our parents took us out, showed us how to fish. We learned how to fish. We learned how to crab, but it was always in the bays. Very, very rarely did we ever go to the beach. It was mostly like Copart, Oso Pier, the bays of Corpus Christi. You know, that's the areas we fish. We never really got a chance to go out and fish like Bob Hall Pier, offshore, you know, the big game fishing. Everything we primarily targeted was reds, drum, flounder, sheephead, and stuff like that, but in the bays. But it was a different style of fishing back then. However, like I said, when I was growing up in the government projects of Guatemala, a buddy of ours, his father would take him out there to Maliki, to Padre Island National Seashore, to fish all the different kind of beaches that are out there, or the different parts of the beach. You got little shell, you got big shell, you got the high banks. You know, these are all just sections of Padre Island National Seashore. Well, he also fished Bob Hall Pier. He had already developed himself as one of a big time fisherman that was on Bob Hall Pier. You know, and the guys out there would all give each other nicknames, you know, and you earned them. It wasn't something that you know, oh, I want to be called so and so. No, you had to earn your nickname out there. And so, whatever, for whatever reason, well, his was called Joe Gold, is what his name was, because he wore a lot of jewelry when he would go out and go fishing. And you've seen him in here occasionally throughout the time. He was here the other day talking about the chicken fajitas and the crab something in a bag or whatever. I mean, he's a whole nother level of fisherman, guys. He's great sense of humor and everything. And while he's getting up and getting ready, I just wanted to give you a kind of little insight as to who he is and why he's been a real important change in my life as a kid. Because when I was 12 years old, and yes, I had fishing tackle and fishing gear, we'd go out and go fishing and do all of that. He actually, you know, invited us out one day saying, would y'all really like to go fishing with us? Because he would always come back with all these monster sized kind of fish, be cutting them up in the yard and stuff like that. And we'd be there, you know, just the neighbor kids looking over at everything they would catch. And they're talking about all the stories of seeing this, seeing that, and just, you know, going nuts with the stories that they had. So hearing all these stories, it was always this far off place that was unattainable by me and my family, and where our means would allow us to go to. So to have this open invitation to come out there and come fishing was like, I can't pass this up. Like, come on, let us go. And sure enough, our parents let us go fishing with them. So finally I went out to Bob Hall Pier, and yeah, ruined me for life. So, you know, it was thanks to him that he introduced me to Bob Hall Pier. And from that one trip, it changed. I never did want to go back to. I mean, yeah, I would go back to the bays and go fish because I couldn't make it out to Bob Hall. But at any given time, hey, you want to go? Yeah, let's go, let's go. I mean, it was just I was always feeding for that next trip to go to Bob Hall Pier. So, with that being said, this is the individual that, I have to thank for really introducing me to Bob Hall Pier and getting me to cross that bridge. Because if he hadn't did that, I don't know when I would have ever crossed that bridge right there. Yep. Toby nailed it. He has been the reason why I've spent so much money. Yep. True that. So what's up, Henry, John Darnell, Edgar, John Holiday, For Life in the house. How you doing? Let's see, Miguel. Who else have I not seen there? Camilo. What up, guys? Sorry, I wasn't really able to be focusing in on the conversation that was being had and stuff like that. Um, play, make sure I get all the info. Yeah, but no, this is you're really gonna enjoy him. He's a character. He's a real character. He's got jokes. He's got and like I said, he's like a father to me. Uh, been in the family for years. I've known them. Shoot, Manuel, his son that's coming in from the Air Force has been in the Air Force 12, 15 years, something like that. Well, I knew him as because he was only a few years old when they moved into La Habana and stuff like that, and then we all became friends from that point on and stuff like that. So, chat holiday for keeping secrets. What? So, I'm just waiting for him to give me a call back to let me know. But yeah, that was pretty interesting having Nick on there talking about what we've been kind of talking about with the current changing up, the red tide, the different types of seaweed problems. I mean, all the stuff that we'd already been nailing on, there was just more stuff he added on to it and just a lot of food for thought. That was pretty awesome. And so, yeah. Oh, man. Been thinking about lunch yet? Not hungry or just.
I'm still doing the flippity flop right now, so.
Was it that piece of sweet bread you ate?
No, it's just that normal stomach activity.
Oh, no. Yep. So, I need my coffee. We have any coffee made in the back?
Yes, from yesterday.
I'll be right back. I need coffee. I need some coffee. Getting a little bit slow there. Oh, man. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the channel on my phone so I can see all his comments. But yeah, no, this is definitely looking forward to where this is going. And man, my hip is really bugging me today. Like, one of the things I have noticed about my hip and what I got to do is like really lean on it and use the muscles that are on there to get them to start functioning the way they're supposed to. So. But fishing. Oh, we had a cold front roll in, and it's crazy because I looked on my phone, and this morning it said it was 75. I was like, man, I guess the front didn't roll through as it was supposed to. And well, when I walked outside, I was like, hey, that's a lot colder than 50 something degrees. Well, it's because my phone didn't have its update this morning or something like that. But y'all saw my shorts? Yep. I'm in shorts and sandals or my Crocs today. So, but I do got to use the restroom. I'll be right back. Let me go do this real quick. Y'all watch my coffee cooking. Well, it's already gonna be done. So I gotta go. Okay, so while it does that, I'm gonna go ahead and start creating the link to send it to you. It's gonna come from one of my other numbers. It'll be like 9101 or 9102 will be the last four. And what it'll say is troubleshooting to get into the link. All you do is follow that link and then it'll log you right into my channel and you'll be live on there. So it'll go off your camera. Not yet until I send you the link. Okay, so give me just a minute. I was warming up some coffee. Okay. All right, guys. So I'm gonna have my coffee black today. Let me go and get back up front real quick. Wow. I think I'm dehydrated. Yes. All right, here we go. Let me go and get this. All right, so I've sent him. Let's see if he can figure this out pretty quickly. If not, I'll call him back and walk him through it. But yeah, Mr. Jose Trejo, aka Joe Gold. And if y'all have any questions, feel free to ask him because you think I've got stories. This guy's got probably 40 years on top of my kind of fishing out there with him and the old pier where it was wooden and all of that stuff as well. So, Darnell, you have a good one, boss? It's Johnny 5 is what it's supposed to be. Come on, man. Johnny 5.0. Yep. What's my favorite beach to shark fish on? That would have to be any beach that big sharks are on. Hey, you ugly mug! What's up,
What's up,
bro?
Daddy?
How you doing?
Where everything is lovely, thanks to God.
Amen to that, brother. So I was kind of giving them a little rundown of who you are. Obviously, it would take me a year to kind of describe that, but I just gave them the down and dirty of how we grew up together. Well, when you moved in, me and your kids grew up together in Latamar, and how you had the unfortunate experience of extending an invite to come fishing with you on Bob Hall.
Oh, brother. Now that we're starting to look at it, it was the early 90s, mid 90s. That was a glorious time. By that time, everybody was getting older. You were there. I mean, now some of these guys who are like yourself, your age, Joe's age, now they're the old schoolers. And I mean, I can remember the first time you cast in on Bob Hall Pier. Eagles. There was the first time in 40 years there were eagles circling the pier and stuff, looking for a nest.
Hey, I
Ah,
straight up told that's the beauty of who I am. Like I don't hold back when I fall on my face flat or I get right back up. But yeah, I was so excited to finally get to fish Bob Hall Pier that I was all rigging up my 11-foot master, and you're like, no, 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 no.
no,
Here,
hold
this
the
is what you're
phone.
throwing first. You got to throw this first. And I'm looking at him like,
Ah,
what is that?
I
And
remember
the mana
handing you
lures.
that. I remember handing you that 7 foot ugly stick, and there was what about 8 or 9 those what did they call them? The oh, those little things uh to catch the blue runners. What were they called?
The
Those
Zabinkies.
the Subichis. That's was the first time they had come. I mean, those were brand spanking new. So we were all busting them out, and catching bait was tough, man, because we had to catch bait on the run. You had to do that walking the entire length of JFK past Red Dot, and you had to run down, catch your bait and all kinds of stuff. And then if you didn't catch bait there, it was strictly on the pier. You had to depend on, so you needed your bait catchers. And I mean, you were already in fourth gear by the time we even stepped on the pier. No, 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 slow down. But no, man, hey, it worked out wonderfully. The beauty of it all was, and what you carry, which I love you to death for it, and not to mention, there's others that have followed suit, that the generation before you guys, that I can go on to Joe, Chris's dad, blacktip Mike, Tarpon Gary, Crazy Joe, Ruben, Big Lee, Lupe Caballero, Augie Perales. I mean, all these people that we used to fish with. I mean, we never hesitated to help anybody. There was people coming from Odessa, to coming from Midland to come and catch tarpons, and the only reason they would come was because we all would set them up. They would, you'd see tarpons and you'd see kingfish, and they were like flabbergasted. They were like, "Wow, look at all this stuff!" And the only way they were going to get in the game was, hey, get this something out there, get this out there, throw out a slide. And the only way they did it, and they would catch. And back in the day, they would come and they'd come back, and they would bring their kids, and that's what we did with you guys. I remember when Santos, Chris, all of you guys were in pre-teens. I mean, little guys, you know, and it was wonderful. It was, and now, you know, I turned 65. It's unbelievable on Monday. Never in my wildest dreams. Uh, Somebody sent me a picture the other day, and it was on the pier. And I figure I was between 29 and 31 at the
Wow.
heyday. At the heyday. Back when the colonel ruled. Back when the colonel ruled the pier. I mean, which was even back then. If you can, I know you've got about the closest one. Mine was, I mean, extraordinary, but I know you've got a rod there at your shop that is 3/4 of what the Colonel used to be. And
Yeah.
they were there, and I was there the other day while you were talking to some people, and I know that you've been offered 5 Harringtons for that rod. You
Mhm.
know, 30 years, 35 years ago, they were offering all kinds of 52s and 55s for the Colonel. I can imagine if I still had it, if unlike the unfortunate incident that happened, but how much that rod would garner. I mean, I remember that the great Mr. Bob from Gulf Sporting Goods. Every time I would take it to go for him to wrap it, he would because it would take yards and yards and yards. I mean,
It was wrapping that one rod, guys, just to give you an idea of how big the Colonel was. It was 13'7" was
yeah.
the length on it right there. And we're talking round, massive. Now my 52s are like this. So you think about the diameter of the thread having to come around that thing to be rewrapped. And basically it would soak up 3 times the amount of product that it would to build one Harrington, you know? And so when he would walk in with that, Bob would be like, like,
Oh,
man, this guy's killing. I mean, now granted, he loved wrapping that thing because it was one of a kind. I mean, there was what 3 rods that we knew of like, in existence in the state of Texas or something like
two
that.
were in Corpus. It was me and Big Lee. Big Lee had
Yeah,
the General Lee. I had the Colonel, and there was one more somewhere in Galveston, Sabina Pass. Heaven knows whatever happened to that one. Big Lee sold his, and mine. A tragic accident. I don't even like to talk about it. It's like losing your 15-year-old family dog. It hurt me to the point where I basically stopped fishing for about 7 years because of that. I mean,
yeah,
it it
I
it
remember
just
all that. I do.
it
And
just
and
it
well,
it
well,
hurt.
let's not dig up old scars here. But I do tell you one of my fondest memories of seeing Mr. Joe Gold out there on the pier with the Colonel with the Pen 68, which is it's a reel about this big. The
Them Long
spool is
Beachers
just
were
a
great.
little smaller than the whole damn reel, and is completely filled with like 40-pound clear
Strand.
blue string.
Oh,
Now
loved
he
it.
puts it on this rod, and mind you, you've seen Mr. Joe Gold. You know he's a bit shorter than I am, but don't get don't judge this book by its cover because casting that one rod, even at my best day, I could not do what he could do with that rod, and he would lean back and just and you would hear the damn what is it the sound barrier break and the whole the percussion
Ah,
of the whole rod taking off and everybody on the pier, no matter what they were doing, they were like, what? They'd be across the pier and they would hear that rod just go. And man, they would just, you'd be sitting there and he would look back and smile because we're all staring. But it was the only rod of its kind out there. And this thing just flew like gone,
hey,
gone, gone.
I used to say that in the daytime I would fish in the dark. I mean, because it got to where I could cast it, literally go in with my other hand into my pocket, pull out a cigarette, light it, take a puff, and it still wouldn't hit the water.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a
I've,
true
I've seen it.
story.
I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah.
Oh, and how can we forget that nub of a hook?
I've told people that story. The thumb.
Yes.
Okay, guys. So let me. Okay, the thumb, which he calls the nub, I called it the thumb because it looked like your damn thumb. You could not get it to pierce your skin. But this is the leader that I was talking about. It was his in his arsenal that a fish could look at it from a mile away and get hooked. Like it was the leader that always hook fish, and we had it for at least a decade in
At
the
least a decade. At least a decade.
oldest beat up leader. It hanging by a thread and a prayer, and that thing would catch fish like just. And people don't believe me like that.
I mean, put it this way: you could literally rake it through your arm, and it wouldn't go. It wouldn't break skin.
Yeah.
But I mean, you get a fish on it, and it was red tide. It was literally related to red tide because it was a fish killer. Yes,
That
sir.
is no joke there. Oh man. Oh, what? I need
So
to.
many, so many. You
Yeah.
know,
No. Oh, go ahead.
the one of the things that was real, that was another classic. Going fishing with you guys was, the wooden wagons that no, yeah, yeah. I used to make way back in the day. We used to make a Roman chariot out of 2x4s, and the best part was, after either you caught fish or you didn't catch fish on the way out, somebody was riding the wagon all the way down. And you know what? Oh my God, that was hilarious because a quarter down the way, it was great. I mean, you're going face first down. Halfway down, you were picking up a lot of head of steam, and everything seemed okay. About three-quarters of the way down, that's when you would start spinning, and oh my God, you're in a world of trouble. And then bam, bam, hitting the corners, and then you'd hit that sand, and whoosh, the human Sputnik. I mean, everybody used to. Oh my God, that was half the trip, man. I mean, riding that Roman chariot down the pier. I mean, that was so funny. It was just, we always seem to manage to have a lot of fun.
That and right there, you nailed it. Was like no matter how bad the day was, how it didn't work out. At the end of the day, we were just so blessed to be able to be out on the pier as a family, and just I mean, like I said, no matter how hot it was, no wind, just horrible conditions. We
Yeah,
didn't care
yeah.
because you know what? We hey, we're going
Oh,
home. We just
and I
left
mean, let's
off
face it.
all pier.
And let's face it. Let's face it. Uh, you know, that was just one of a lot of things we used to do. But one thing we never stopped doing, and you were included in this, was stopping at the Circle K on the 361 on the way back, and it was big gulps and hot dogs, and everybody just pigged, and by the time we got home, everybody was out like a light.
Yep.
Everybody, I mean, everybody was just weather beaten and asleep in the back of the Toyota. Funny
Man,
man, that was.
that Yoda, God, that Yoda saw so much salt, fish, tackle, weights. Like that truck had been through the deep and back 100 times over, and still, it was to the point that, like you said, all the knowledge we learned then, we're doing the right thing by passing it on to the next
Oh, of
generation.
course,
Stuff like
of
that.
course.
So, with my channel here, I've got a lot of guys that have been with us for years and years, and have followed suit with all the storytelling and stuff like that. And so for me, what would be one of your greatest memories? Because I know you used to fish with your dad a lot on Bob Hall Pier. Obviously, he's the one who introduced it to you, and you passed it on to us and stuff like that. What would be one of your greatest memories out there that really addicted you to fishing?
You know, it was it was going out there as a little kid back in the middle to late 60s. And at that time at Bob Hall Pier, they had the hang stand where everything, they used to hang the fish. I mean, and being overwhelmed by the sawfish. At that time, believe it or not, they were catching sawfish at the end of the pier. The tarpon were just, the sharks, with these prehistoric 12-aughts. I just don't see how they, with 1-to-1 ratio and, these people got dinged up. I can go and tell you that as a kid, seeing this, I saw it in my kids' eyes. I saw it in your eyes. I got to see it, believe it or not. I got to see it in your eyes. I got to see it in my children. The awesomeness of where I'm at and what was around me, and the possibilities of me. Why not me catching one? And if you go into something that you love, like yourself, and you say, why not me? Well, why not you? Look what's gotten you. Yeah, got you world record. Yeah, got you in business. Got you, little YouTube channel where you can talk to friends and advise and teach. And that was the whole thing. I wanted, my dad was a baseball coach, and, those are the greatest people on earth because they are born to teach. He always wanted to teach fishing. He always wanted to teach hunting. He wanted to teach everything. And it opened the door to a lot of things. And when I started working with the state, I was the only one that could take incarcerated youth fishing.
I remember that.
And hey, man, it was wonderful to take it. That was the greatest joy, that to take inner city youth from Dallas, from El Paso, from Amarillo, from San Antonio, from Houston, that never even seen the water, and all of a sudden now they're catching oversized redfish. And they're going like, and you see it in their eyes where, all of a sudden it's, they forget their situation. And you know what? They'll talk about it until they're my age and further. And they'll remember. And that's what it's all about. That's the greatest joy that, fishing has given me. I mean, it's wonderful, man. It's really good. It's just wonderful.
Well, right there, you nailed it on a huge deal for me. And then you saw it, like you said, when I caught my world record, what I did with that shark by letting it go, it was because at that time I had evolved and grown to a bigger understanding of what it is to fish out on that pier. Growing up, we always saw, big fish getting caught and get the gaff, daddy. And, we're quick with the gaff, putting it up, and just as fast as it could happen. To fast forward into now, like you said, I went from that generation of being taught a certain way to coming into a newer generation where, and granted, there was times we caught so many fish. Okay, we got to start throwing back because we're catching too many. For one, it was just so we wouldn't get in trouble. That was the main reason why we threw it back. Not because we didn't want to take it or whatever. We were just following the rules. So because we couldn't afford those kind of, fines or whatever, it was. we're doing it because we just don't want to be, be in any kind of trouble. Now, a lot more people are doing it because it's helping protect the fisheries for the next generation of fishermen. And you going from that original way of fishing, fishing with pops and everybody, to now going out there and seeing the evolution of fishing in your generations of fishing. How has that changed your life, your perspective on it as well?
Well, I mean, all you gotta do is just fish with an avet. That in itself is, I can't begin to tell you. I mean, hey man, like you said, I used to, I mean, HLWs, 113 HLWs. I mean, that was a staple. That was the staple at the pier. 114s, when the Super Sixes came out, you know, the HLWs. I mean, those were the staple that, you had the Daiwas and what were the other ones?
Those,
Yeah, you know, there was, but nothing can I mean, can compare to an avid. I mean, it is just revolutionary. I mean, I remember catching a stingray the size of the bed of my truck, fighting
I
it
remember
for
when y'all.
three, fighting it for 3 hours and 46 minutes, and it was the most excruciating. That wasn't fun anymore. That wasn't fun anymore. You know, and you bring in all that line and just so him to suck it all the way out. I mean, and then here you come and and bring it all the way in, and then for him just to take it all the way out again, and it was, and that doesn't happen with this stuff. I mean, just the rods are the same.
Yeah.
It's the mechanics of the reels. The reels now, you low lock. I mean, it's like throwing it in. I mean, they're so far advanced that you know. Uh, I think I've seen you where you throw something out, what seems to be, about you know a castaway from the coast of Cuba, and bring it in 15 minutes. And do you know how long that would take back in 1972? It would take hours, hours. It would take hours to bring back, you know, and not to mention, I mean, there wasn't, and that's because, let's face it, a 12 out or a 16, what's the maximum line you can put in? Not much.
Um, yeah, no, the whole ergonomics of the way the reels are built now to what it is, what it was then, is a whole game changer. And that right there was my biggest like epiphany. It was like, man, I don't want to fight this fish for that long. I really don't. Like, I mean, if it's gonna take that long, it has to be a monster sized fish for to warrant that time. And granted, yeah, that stingray is huge, the one you caught. But like you said, when we're fighting these bull reds and these 5 foot sharks, 30, 45 minutes because we have to, because of the way the reel, the line that we're using, and the capacity, we got to the point where like, damn, if I could do that in 3 to 4 minutes, like, why not?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and and
I
and
mean,
so at the end of the day, it's like, how many fish did you catch today? About 50, and they look at you like you're crazy. It's like, well, how did you do that if every fish, everybody's doing the calculation of, oh, it takes an hour to pull one fish in. How'd you do 50 in a day? The gear you're working with. You know what I
the
mean?
gear you're working with. A case in point, I went to Goose Island last year 4 times. Now, granted, I I may cast, but immediately I'm not the old Joe anymore. Where you can just bring him in and hey man, I look immediately to my right because I'm at the end. So the only way to look is to your right to see, who's out there, who's a rookie, who needs to catch, who needs to learn how to catch fish. Because you need somebody to reel it in. You need somebody to pick it up. You need somebody to throw it back in because let's face it, you know, knees are bad, shoulders bad, bad is bad, back is bad. You just can't do it. I caught
Mm.
80. I caught 80 in 4 trips, and again, it's because of the. I mean, you just lock it and bring that boy in. I'm here to help. Just come on in. I'm certified in taking out a hook. I'll be gentle and throw you back. Let's go.
I've done this once or twice, so I'm pretty sure I get that hook out of you.
Yeah, you know, you're not gonna feel a thing. I mean, let's go. It's got to get back in the water. And, that's funny about Goose Island, though, because you sit down and, you've got 3 or 4 on the pier. Here comes another one. And you're going like, so you finally, after all of that, finally you get all the rods back in the water and you sit down and you say, God, please, slow down. That's the only time in my life I have said, you know what? Slow down, God. Wait a minute. Let me, and you're going like, oh, that 5 o'clock to 7:30, 8 o'clock. Oh, hito. Oh, I mean, that's just great. It's crazy. It's crazy out there.
Damn
So
it,
yeah,
let's
man.
see. Yeah, no, I'm looking at some of the comments of on there and stuff like that, and that's the other thing too. There are times when we don't catch anything, but man, there's nothing else like it. To go out there and just be at peace. With some good people. We're sitting there cracking jokes with each other and stuff like that. But man, it the closest thing is next to a bonfire and a backyard barbecue. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. One
Man, it.
one one thing I want to mention that also was a tradition with
You just
us
have
that
to
we
look
used to do.
for finger drops.
That or for the trout flounders.
Okay. Because no, plus we got the little bigger ones I miss. Still, that's all I was asking.
Okay, yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a snap spool, have her just rig them all up and we'll figure it out later. Just keep them separated from the small ones. Well, I had her separate some too because she had 2 sizes on one clip. So I think she already did that, but just so she remembers to do that.
One thing I wanted to say before we, just in case if you got something else to do, uh, fishing in tropical storms and hurricanes. Fishing in tropical storms and hurricanes. Oh my God.
I've been called, and this is several times, like I was on the end of Bob Hall, northern's blowing in 65, 85 mile per hour winds and everything. And Buddy would call me, oh, you fishing the pier? Is that you? I was like, yeah, I'm on Bob Hall. And they're like, the news crew's out there. Hey!
You know, man,
There's morons still out here.
those were the best times too. The uglier the better.
And we were all
Yep.
under there, in between the bites, we're all just a community at the end of the pier. You know what I mean? And you know what? And I'm glad you hit on that too, because with everything that's going on with the pier and everything that had been transpiring, them trying to say that it was considered a walking pier. I'm like who? Like, I mean, because Because the only other people that I ever talked to walk the pier was because the fishermen that were at the end, they wanted to see the fishermen. They didn't walk the
Mm-hmm.
pier just to walk the pier. They walked the pier because they were waiting for big fish to be caught. When I heard
Mm-hmm.
that, I was just like, oh my, like what planet are you from? Like, do you even understand what Bob Hall Pier is? Like, and they go, well, a lot of people went for it for the walk. They didn't go out there because they wanted to walk the pier and get their steps in. This is way before steps. You know what I mean?
You know, and
So
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm gonna, go into something here that I hope the new county judge listens, and I want to. Connie Scott, I know her, on a little bit. I'm not going to say that we're very good friends. Just put it this way: that lady has walked the hood in search of votes. She came to my house, and you can't get any more hood than that. Several times. Several times.
you calling me hood too?
And I hope that she realizes, and being an old schooler, and Connie's an old schooler, that she will listen to the. I mean, if you want to make a mall out there, put it on the beach and let the pier be a fisherman's pier. You want a mall? Put it on the beach. Put it right there in front of the beach. I mean, in front of the pier. I don't care. But leave my fishing to me. It's been the pier, not just for my dad and Connie's dad, because Connie's about my age, but for them. Bob Hall's been here a long time. And, these years that we've been without it hurts. And every year that pier is not in the water, our memories being lost with parents, dads and sons, grandfathers and grandkids, granddaughters too, and it's a damn shame because this county has the best fishing pier in the entire Gulf of Mexico, and we are not. Without due respect to the ladies and everybody, we're not sticking our finger at our butt and putting it back. That place is a national treasure. That is a national state treasure, a national treasure, a state treasure. And it's unfortunate that these people and these politicians do not, put more into building that pier because it's a treasure, man. I mean, I've seen it all my life. I've seen where, all of us have enjoyed it. Anyone who's fished it, anyone who's gone out there and seen it for themselves, there's always a story when you go out there. And it's unfortunate that, somebody who's never been on that pier, somebody who, from his cozy little place from somewhere here in this county who doesn't fish, starts to put benches and shading and where you can't cast, and come on, man. It's just, I mean, like I said, you want a mall, put it next to Willie Mays and all that, make it a boardwalk. But leave the section for me, for the fishermen.
Yep, yep. And then that truly scares me right there at the thought of that because my son has fished that pier, my kids have fished that pier, my nieces and nephews, that I did the same thing. They would always see me come back with these monster fish and sharks and kings and I'd be like, y'all got to come with me. Y'all got well, I don't got the gear. I didn't just come with me. We'll cover the food and stuff like that, and you'll use my gear. And they were so terrified and using the big gear and stuff like that. And once they got locked on, shoot, it was like, oh, and they were running to the rod like, that's mine, that's mine. I was like, hey, y'all know the deal. First come, first serve. If you ain't watching that rod, you ain't watching that line, then, hey, I can't help you. Like, you know what I mean? If you came here to fish, you got to partake in it. I can't force it to you. You don't want to be brilliant in fish? Cool. But those that do, hey, y'all got to be on it. I got plenty of gear, and I would take everything I had in the arsenal out there to let them fish. Like, they would just be on it, and took some awesome and built memories. And that right there is what scares me, to have that looming above us, looming in our memory, to think that it might not be that situation anymore. That our kids will not be able to do that full circle of showing the knowledge that was instilled to them, sharing that memory, and for it to come back around. You know, and I've already seen that in my generation where I was helping out young kids to where they were old enough to where now they were teaching the next generation of young fishermen to take that whole circle of life out of here. It'll just be, God, I mean, here, take my right arm. That's my casting arm. If you're going to do that kind of deal, that's what you end up doing. I mean, you're going to take a whole piece of us, and not just from my generation, from your generation, generations before you too that are still around, and the generations after that. You know, oh yeah, I can remember that. And yeah, you only see pictures on, or you've seen old videos. Like, I don't want it to be that. I want it to be, there's new pictures, there's new videos, there's new fishermen coming out there with the newest techniques. Because, you know what I mean? That's what it does. Fishing evolves, fishing changes, fishing grows people. I mean, I can remember when we first went out there that the slide lines weren't what they are now. They were a float rig that we put out there. And then one guy, I guess he ran out of floats, and he said, "Screw it, I'm gonna do it like this," and that changed the whole dynamic. Everybody went
That
from,
changed everything.
yeah. I mean, he was smart. Like, what is he doing different? I mean, I remember that. Like, he's fishing without a float, and like, and man, his hookup ratio went from like 1 every hour to like 10 an hour, and like we were like, God, I remember that as a kid. And then
Yeah,
even now, like I was showing you how we inverted the snap so that way the snap would stay on there instead of the weight, and it was just
right.
the little things to change it up. And man, I looked forward to, like, okay, in 20 years, what's the next evolution of fishing going to be for that pier?
Yeah,
Oh, it's
yeah.
a walking pier now. You must have a Fitbit to get on. You know what I mean? Like, come on, like.
I'm sorry, you need a mandatory scarf. What? As what? No, man. Jesus
I, I
Christ.
I can remember the time where if you were a shark fisherman, you got on the pier for free.
Yeah,
Man, that was awesome. Because
yes.
we brought everybody. Like, we get on, oh, you're shark fishing? Go ahead. Oh, you trout and flat? It's this much to get on the pier. Because they
Yeah.
knew the big time fishermen were the ones that brought the walkers,
I mean,
you know,
of
because
course.
that was a fast buck for them. They just went out there to walk the pier. You know, they made their
Well, let's
money from
face it.
them.
The tourists went solely to go check out the latest equipment and see if they would be lucky enough to see somebody catch something. That was the walk. You know,
Yep.
that was the walk. You know, because you wanted to see them hardheads. You know, I mean, from the west side of Corpus in Flower Bluff, battling it out at the end of the pier. You know, I mean, to see who was going to outgun the other side. I mean, that's what it
Yep.
was all about.
Yep. Yep. I was like, man, I was gonna say something right now, and I totally, man, it was on it. Um, it'll come back to me, but it was so in line with what was being said there. But yeah, it was, and I really pray that, you know, the new kind of commissioners that are in there and stuff like that do get it back to that, because I mean, it's going to take a piece of history away from all future generations. I don't want it to be that, oh, you got to see what back in its heyday, like you talk about. You know what I mean? I want them to still be able to say, hey, man, check this out. Because I remember, you know, we were talking about kingfishing, and I remember one weekend, I think the most we caught in that whole weekend, we were out there Friday, Saturday, and didn't come back till Sunday. And it was like 20 kings or something like that for the weekend. That was like an amazing weekend kind of deal. And then decades later, we did 70 something kingfish in that weekend. And I did 13 in a day. And that's because I didn't start fishing until 3 o'clock that afternoon. And it was only till about 6. Like it was insane amount of catches. And it's stories like that that got people to go back out there to want to see the pier, check it out, and then say they walked it. They may not have the gear to fish it, but I can remember plenty of times. Hey, bro, you got a fishing license? Yeah, go get on that fish. You want to catch fish? Go get on
No.
that fish.
Oh, by the way, you want one? You have fishing license, hey, and they would leave with fish.
Yep.
I mean, what better way not to take any gear out and you walk away with a fish? I mean, Jesus Christ.
Uh,
It's
going, yeah, going back to the talking about bait and stuff. It's been the only pier I've ever walked on, and I've walked on piers on the East Coast, a lot of the Gulf Coast and stuff like that, to where I could show up with no bait and throw a slab of lead with the treble hook at the back and leave with kingfish, leave with bull reds, leave with shark, and it was either you needed that, a Zamiki rig, or a cast net. I mean, you had to learn to work the bait to get it where you want it, because a lot of the bait was never sold. For one, catching that kind of live bait was not conducive to any tackle shop around here. It was always croaker, shrimp, and mullet, or perch. They didn't sell blue runners. They didn't sell, bonita.
yeah.
They didn't, you had to catch all your own bait. And now that's where tackle shops have changed up. But I mean, I really hope it gets back to that. But even then, too, we've talked about, remember the surf and turf wars?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Brother, I was in the thick of it. I mean, you know, uh, flinging 8 to 10 ounce surf weights at dummies, on on boards. I mean, and them refusing to move, and it's just, you know, people getting on their surfboard, and this is how close it used to personal it used to get, man. I mean, you would have a line, running down the pier. I mean, and of course your drag was, you had it in the hole and everything, and your line was tight. Well, here comes a big dummy on a surfboard, and you could just imagine the burns they used to get, because it wasn't just one. I mean, and they would get caught right through the neck, and I mean, and you could just imagine. I mean, those line burns, and but that's when they were that close up on you on the pier, and there's always going to be that. I mean, here in the 90s, 2000s, I didn't see that. The surfer moved more to the north side of the pier and away. It wasn't much down the beach anymore where they were at. And I never really got it. It was a better cooperation. In the
Yeah.
70s and 80s, it wasn't. It was not. It was a battlefield out there, man. I mean, flinging those weights. Luckily, nobody ever got really seriously hurt. But you flinging around hooks and 10-ounce surf weights, and people refusing. I mean, and here you are. All you want to do is fish. But I mean, I never really got it. I never really understood, if you moved 100 yards away to give me a place to fish, the difference in height, what a wave would be. I mean, it just never made any sense to me. But yeah, man, back in the 70s and 80s, it was a real deal. It was a fierce war where people were cussing at each other at the end of the pier, and I mean, wailing away. I mean, it would get ugly. It would get ugly.
Yeah, I can remember some of that running into it, in the parking lot, and having words there, or just being ugly toward one another, and our light, we were looking at it as, preservation of them. So, because I mean, obviously, we were out there to fish, to enjoy ourselves. We weren't out there intentionally trying to hurt a surfer, because there's kid surfers too. You know what I mean? Hey
Mhm.
guys, we got some lines here. Just
Yeah,
giving them a heads up. You know what I mean? Hey, throw us the finger and this and that, and be like, all right, bro. Like I warned you. Like I can't sit there and hold your hand and show you
I,
where to
I
surf.
paid to be here. I
But
paid
I'm gonna
to
do my
be here.
part. Hey, I warned the kid. Like I paid to be up here. They're free to be down there, and they're free to do whatever they want. But I'm gonna at least warn them. Hey, I'm fishing in this area because that's where they're at. That's the end of the
Yeah.
pier. You know what I mean? And and I got real personal with a lot of them. A lot of those surfers were, my friends and stuff like that. And we would have, off the beach discussions and stuff like that, and just talk about it. And then, I would share insight with them, like, hey, man, this and this. And I would explain the hook systems and stuff. And a lot of times they didn't fully understand what was going on the pier because they weren't fishermen. They were just surfers. So when I started doing that, a lot of them would recognize me. Oh, all right, bro, thanks. And they would move off because then the knowledge was out there. We would communicate on. Sometimes it would start off. You could cut the tension with a butter knife or whatever. I mean, but it was there. You could feel the tension. But we learned to, like I said, to work with one another and stuff like that. And so a lot of the older fishermen that had been there a while could fish with those guys and surf with them right next to it. And I'd be like, hey man, I'm put out some slides here or whatever. And they would move off just enough so they wouldn't catch the lines or whatever. Because I mean, like you said, they know the pain that it could cause. And then the evolution from monofilament to braided lines.
Oh,
Oof,
brother. Oh,
razor blades, like, you
yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, that
And and
you know
there
that you don't play with.
and
That
there and
boy
again,
there will go to the bone.
yeah, and there again, we're not doing it to harm them. We're doing it for our own reasons, line capacity, weight class, and we're changing the whole dynamic of our fishing abilities. So it really did change everything. And I'm glad, like I said, I crossed that bridge when I did with a lot of those guys, because then if I ran into a new surfer that didn't know me and wanted to like sit there and bash on me, and the other surfer, hey, no man, actually that dude's pretty cool. Like he was probably telling you to help you out or whatever, and then they would clear things up, and then he would understand after, they would remove the tension. Oh, that's just some a-hole fisherman out there just being greedy. They would show him, hey, no, he was probably telling you this and this, and they would explain the hooks and all of that, because they would always run into the slide lines. And then too, I had the time when they were sitting there trying to cut braid, and you see them trying to do it with their teeth and stuff like that. It's like it ain't gonna work, bro. Like you ain't gonna, like you ain't gonna cut the braid. It's not gonna happen. And it was sharing the knowledge with a lot of guys that didn't know or didn't understand. And for us too, they learned. Well, I learned from them the reason why they were so close to the piers, because that's where the sand on the bottom builds up to where the waves crest up higher to give them that wave effect that they were looking for. And that's why they would always surf a lot closer to the pier than they would away from the pier. And that's why they also too, same reason why I run a kayak up the middle when I'm kayaking out there, because it creates a wave break right up in there. So instead of hitting a wave and trying to kayak through, I would just kayak through that little wave break, and that's what they would do. They would do the same thing I would do to kayak a bait. They'd paddle out in between there and then cut out, catch the waves back, and then they do this full circle time and time again. And so it was learning, and you have to be willing to learn that or ask the questions. You know what I mean? And for me, it was a game changer, because it really did change a whole dynamic of a surf and turf war to an actual collaboration of working the pier for both sides. You know what I mean? For my kids to be out there not having to worry, is daddy going to get into a fight? Why is that guy cussing daddy out or whatever? To the same for the kids in the water too. They're probably surfing with their parents, their older brothers, sisters. They don't want to be out there, you know, uh, getting cussed out or whatever, or having to worry about a weight or something coming at them and stuff like that. So it really did, you know, it changed the whole dynamic when people were willing to take a step back and just see it from the other one's perspective. But granted, there was a lot of times lines were cut. Like, I mean, literally, I had, guys that would cut off lines, from other fishermen and this and that. And, it was not cool. There was, and it's always going to be there. You know what I mean? They feel they have the rights to the water as we feel the same thing. And so that time there, you remember those stakes that were on the north side of Packery where they built like a surf park, but it was all wooden stakes?
Yes.
Well, if they had done that with concrete, they'd still be there, allowing those surfers a place to surf without no fishermen, around it. Now, granted, I'd always see fishermen, wading in and fishing near the poles, but it was never something that they had to worry about somebody casting off the end of the poles where they're surfing through or trying to catch a wave and stuff like that too. So that was something that I know I got into the conversations with him that, if they brought that back, it might decrease the amount of tension that could happen off that one area. Like they will pull it more towards, hey, they got their own, surf park. You know what I mean? Basically, it's the best way you could put it. And maybe they made a little boardwalk up there. They can have it to where the guys that are strictly no fishing go out there where they can sit out there with their cameras, take pictures, and do whatever they want to do out there. You know what I mean? So it was definitely something that I'm looking at and trying to push off, or push out there, see if it works. But you never know. Like I said, it's going to be up to these guys that are in the office that are holding these meetings. And what's hard is trying to keep up with those meetings when they're in the middle of the day when we're all at work,
Yes, sir. I couldn't help listening to you and seeing some of these what do you call them? Responses that you get, or
Well, the comments. Yep.
the comments. And John Holiday says, Pin 68. That's a new one to me. Oh, the 67 was better, John. Let me tell you, they both could home a line. I mean, they were 1-to-1 ratio, John. But let me tell you, when it came to casting, them bad boys could. To this day, I would throw a 68 and throw it against any avet, because them bad, either that or the gears on my 68s were so fine, like a Rolex watch. I mean, it was in the dark, in the deep, in the daytime.
I just hated reeling it in.
That's for sure.
You still reeling? You've been up there an hour. It's still way out there. Walk around with this big old Popeye arm from cranking so much.
Yeah. No kidding, man. No kidding.
Yeah. Well, Prop, I do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk with us here on our Team Hard Life YouTube channel. Again, this is Mr. Joe Trejo. Joe Gold, as he was better known on the pier. He, changed my life. Like I said, he went against his better judgment.
The man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah, but
yes,
you changed.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Albert, thank you for giving me the time and the great joy to reminisce and just to share it with everybody, because, believe it or not, it was wonderful. We did it. We enjoyed it. And the best part about it is we can talk about it and share it with other people. So thank you for the opportunity, son.
All right, bro. Love you too, bro. You have a good, blessed day, man. And again, when Manuel gets into town, y'all stay tuned, because we're going to be putting it out there. We've got some videos of the last times that he was down, and we were able to make it out to the North Packery jetties where we were out there fishing, catching bull reds, where we walked out there and, they're not catching.
We quickly changed that. Red tide just appeared at the end of the jetties.
Yep. So, all right, bro. You have a blessed day, man.
I love you, man.
Love you too, bro.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys. So that again, that was Mr. Jogo, Mr. Trejo. Like I said, he's like another dad to me. Been there through the many years of my growth, my youth, and and even to this day, he still comes in. We still talk fishing knowledge. Still got it going on and stuff like that. And I appreciate y'all watching the channel and putting it in there and stuff like that. Uh, yeah, it was a game changer for me to grow up in that time period, to be introduced to that style of fishing and be able to pass it on to my kids. And at the end of the day, I hope that everything can keep going as it's going to where they rebuild it as a fishing pier for all of us to continue sharing on that knowledge that we have learned and earned on that pier. And again, guys, remember, we are going for our 25,000 subscriber mark giveaway. You got to be sharing Jacked Up Leatherworks YouTube channel along with our YouTube channel to every kind of social media platform that there is out there. The faster we can get to 25,000 subscribers, the faster we can do this giveaway, the faster we can move on to the next one. And also, too, we've got 5 spots for 5 Gator spoons per person for our next giveaway, too, which is at the 25,000 subscriber mark giveaway. And like I said, by the time we get to there, I know we're going to have a lot more sponsors on the board for giveaways and stuff like that. But this is where we're at. So stay tuned for a lot more information, guys. We're going to keep it rocking. And again, thank you for watching our channel. If y'all missed earlier on, we did have Nick Myers, the breakaway tackle, on, as well as a gentleman that used to work with Texas Parks and Wildlife on the fisheries and helping produce more speckled trout, redfish, and flounder for our area, Mr. Rodney Gomez, who spent some time of his day to answer some questions and share some knowledge. So again, guys, I'm going to keep editing video footage. As we all saw, I posted one this morning, and it is great that I was able to get out there on that day because it worked out beautifully for me to be able to do my testing. Because like I said, for Tightline Braid, for every braid company, I give it about 13 trips. And it's coming real close to finishing my 13 trip mark, but I'm leaving it in there when I break off, when I burn off, when I anything that has to do with the braid, whether it be my fault or not. I want y'all to see it because we all run into those. We all run into backlash. We run into break off. We run into cutoffs. And so it is definitely going to be something that we are looking forward to. Ever thought about talking in school with the school about fishing teams? I've actually talked to a couple of the coaches about doing that. But obviously, that's something that I would have to extend a lot more effort into going into the schools and stuff like that. Right now, with the way the shop is going and stuff like that, once this gets back up and running again, is when I will be able to afford more time to break away and go do stuff like that. We are definitely looking forward to it. So again, guys, y'all have a blessed day, and we will be doing today is Thursday, right? Yeah, maybe. Okay. Anyway, I got to check the lottery tickets from last night, and I will have an update for y'all here in a while. Y'all have a good one. Let's see.